again of the Rendezvous with the Artist series. I'm joined by eminent artist Shilpa Gupta, whose sculptures, photos, and installations have been exhibited at renowned institutions across the world, such as the Tate Modern and the Centre Pompidou. Thank you, Shilpa, for joining us this afternoon, opening your studio for us. I just had a few questions which I thought our patrons and the wider public would like to know. To begin with, I'd like to ask what encouraged you to go to art school to become a professional artist, and are there any particular artists who deeply inspired you early in your study or your career?
Okay, with the first part of the question, what took me to an art school? I guess you're very young in India when you make a choice as to do art or science or something else, and I was just 16 years old. So it was basically, I was a very studious kid, and I had done really well, and I landed up actually in the science school. I stopped after science school called MUMBAI, and it was really tough after enrolling to then sort of move into. So the question was really big on me. I really felt at that point it's something which is so driven by instinct, and very deep instinct, and I really wanted to. I mean, of course, I was good in. You do have your certain set of skills, and you do get through an exam and everything. But it's about an instinct to discover the world with a great sense of freedom, and art is a space to do that. And I think it's a really precious space to be able to explore it.
And any particular artists who deeply inspired you at some point?
I think the memory stays strongest when you're really young. So the artist, like I remember, about the art school, there were works of Varma and then Varma. So it was wonderful to see the works of these artists at Kimball Gallery in the mid-90s, and they were doing something really very relevant and extremely engaging. So I mean, of course, then there's Atul Gurria or Anju Gurria. I mean, within Bombay, I mean, these were the artists which I was really looked up to and admire their works.
We also
I can go outside, but it's really, I have done that. It is Indian artists. I started international artists.
Well, Indian is good. Okay. Also, you often address issues about social injustice in the whole process of globalization. Do you see art as an effective vehicle for provoking public awareness?
You know, it's like I was saying, this is a little difficult question, and it's really big. But I don't think artists tend to start off by wanting to work on public awareness. I feel, at least from my perspective, it's primarily an emotion which is triggered in your mind, and then in order to deal with that, it's the completion of an artwork that, it's a completion of artwork that allows you to deal with that emotion in your mind. Then what happens is, then what is produced, and then the possibilities of the production then works at another level. So, and since I feel I have grown up in a particular time which is so energized, like in the 90s is a time when like the market policies changed, and all of a sudden instantly from black and white TV you had color TV, and from no few channels you had like 60 channels. So what happened is it's extremely media infused age, and then you had like a certain series of political events. So then you throw an artist in the middle of all of this. What are the artists going to do? The artist will work with these things because they are so present around them. And then what happens to the work after that? It is. So I don't think the artist sets out to as you sort of embark on this large ambition of public awareness. I think it is not. The artist's public awareness sounds a little dry. It is more about the emotion that you want to share with the onlooker. So, but yes, I mean, art it is a moment of some amount of exchange, some amount of possible transformation. I've had my own experiences where I've given really compensated menstrual blood, and they come back to me telling me they don't think it's anymore dirty. Or there are times when I've given distributed bottles of bleed, and that's such extreme strong reaction. A very positive realizing the work of art but extremely emotional, paucity complete. So there has been moments where works have, but that is not public awareness is not the word, some other word.
Okay, thanks. Keep that in mind. Finally, like I mentioned at the beginning, that your art is being displayed at museums and galleries across the world. Can you talk a bit about how the cultural preconditions and the institution and the particular space, how particular spaces influence people, how they see your work? Do they react differently in different spaces?
First two things about I feel it's very yeah, you're right that every space has its own embedded memory and that will influence the way people will look at the work. But then also there is a possibility for work having an emotion which is universal. So there's always this thing, there is the geography that defines a land, but then there is human emotion which cannot be defined. But in terms of examples, but then there are contradictory examples. For example, the No Border Flag. It is a work created by an artist living in Bombay. The work came out of a set of journals, which Kashmir was part of it. The work was shown in Cuba first. When I showed it in Cuba, I had people who came up, hugged, people cried also. There was a very strong reaction. Work made by Bombay artists. I showed the work in a Bombay gallery. Good reaction, but not as emotional. So here you have, so geography is not the way to define how the work will be understood, because Bombay artists work from one place, shown in another place, but somebody in Cuba, so where do you live? Do you live in terms of, where do you live? Do you live physically? Do you live mentally? Do you live philosophically? Do you live virtually? So
It's difficult to define.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's about it. Thank you so much.